Yeah, you're right, Ryan. It's always good when we don't have to deal with any wild weather drama, right? Although I personally, and maybe I'm a little biased, I get excited when storm or snow talk appears. That's when things get a lot of fun. We got a while. This is not our season, right? I hope you guys are doing well and had a good few days. I'm sure you've heard by now. Obviously, the heat is the bigger story as the week evolves, as we get into the weekend and certainly a good chunk of next week. Now, there will be some interruptions, at least attempts at interruptions, some of that heat, which is a good thing. And the heat index will not be a huge factor initially, but I do think we will get into that zone of talking about the heat index getting closer to about 100 or so at times. That'll be more than likely next week. Not quite to advisory level, and certainly it'll go a lot worse as we get into, I'm sure, that later in the summer season. But more on that in just a second. As always, I try to walk you guys through the short term, what to get through for the rest of this week. We do have a front nearby that will try to tease us this week with our only really somewhat decent rain chance. I don't see much to track other than that one feature. So our focus is on that for this week. And of course, the building heat coming up in just a few more minutes. As always, you guys can comment as you guys are doing that on social media. Good to see you all. So you can easily do that on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, as well as even on Twitch. We'll be able to see you. All right. What a beautiful looking shot right now from the Harbors over there in Jeffersonville. Once again, another shot where the mighty Ohio looks like a sheet of glass, the near perfect reflection this morning. Very much a mid-spring type of setup today. Morning lows in the metro. We dropped to 54 at Ali, 48 as you head toward Bowman Field, 45 in Floyd's Knobs, 48 in Corden. Hello, Crestwood. You're at 47 this morning. Even Fern Creek down to 50. Dropped to about 50 at my house this morning. Boy, it was close to the threshold for Harry Matortis. And across the state, one of the cooler spots, in fact, the coolest spot in the entire state, you don't see it listed here, was 43 degrees in Meade County and Brandenburg. And in Indiana, the closest within our range I was able to find was up in Lawrence County into Bedford, Indiana, at 42 this morning. Not exactly to a frost setup, of course, but you had a lot of heavy dew out there this morning. Good for the plants. Plants will love that today with a lot of full sun in the area today. But really nice, comfortable setup. Hopefully you're saving some money on the cooling aspect of things. Hopefully you haven't turned on the heat. I don't think anyone would have done that, but yeah, you never know. Because we're going to quickly just reverse things into the days ahead. Right now, we've made some ground up, nice amount of ground with dry air, heat, and cool more rapidly. So we're on track for a good several degree jump here today. We've got 48 still in the Bedford, but Louisville now at 63 degrees and climbing this morning. If you have a home thermometer, let me know how cool you got and where you were at this morning. And it's always nice to compare especially the suburbs away from the city limits. Always seems to stand out. All right, here's a view from space, and I can't even see anything because there's not anything. So let's go to a wider view where much of lower 48. What a nice break it's been able to happen for the severe weather zones. I mean, there's still a few storm zones that we got to watch into the days ahead that are typical for Northern Plains, upper Midwest type of setup. It's pretty normal to see that this time of the year. But here, certainly a much quieter regime. Meanwhile, to Florida, where they were entering severe drought status. We all knew, though, and looking at the data, that was going to quickly change, right? They were going to make up for it with the tropical season. This is not even an official tropical system yet. I'll explain why. But boy, it's put down a lot of rainfall. It is just south of where some of the worst the drought conditions are, but still the entire state needs rainfall. But I think you're going to see a lot of it, more than you would want, into the Sunshine State. Not exactly vacation beach season. For weather here. I don't think the weather's going to cooperate for a lot of vacations, and this may continue for 4th of July and for much of the summer. Stay close to your forecast plans if you're going to Florida. If you got a cruise especially, oh boy, it's going to just be active. And again, you don't have to have anything organized in the tropical sense. Just a lot of tropical moisture is going to lead to days like this here, where you get these very heavy downpours. This would include all the island chains in the Caribbean that will have to deal with this, and a little bit more of an uptick than usual. So a lot of heavy rainfall taking place in Florida. Okay, what about us? Well, we're looking not south but north, because we do have a front moving in. This will be more of a nocturnal arrival of Thursday night into early on Friday, although it'll still hang out in town on Friday. Until that happens, we still have some beautiful weather. Beautiful this afternoon, no problems at all. Tonight could be a very similar setup tonight on the cool air. I don't know if we'll get to 43 like we did in Meade County or 42 in Lawrence County, but I do think you will get cool tonight, and I do think we'll have a few 40s on the map. But in general, cool start to your Wednesday. We will notice the change tomorrow. Tomorrow, you will start to say, okay, all right, it's been nice in the last couple of days. Now we're starting to get the little feel that something's about to happen here. You're going to start saying that conversation to yourself in the afternoon tomorrow, because you should notice the difference there. Here comes the front dropping in across the upper Midwest. It'll begin to produce clusters of thunderstorms. Now, the challenge this front will have, there's many, it will have instability with it, but with such a big amount of heat that is building across the southern United States, it's creating a warm layer above these thunderstorms too. Now, the cold front will do its thing and try to undercut that, and that's what leads to thunderstorms to develop. But in some cases, there's so much warm air aloft, especially in the right layers of the atmosphere, that thunderstorms just don't have that ability to have that imbalance. They need that imbalance to grow. It's supposed to be naturally getting colder as you go up, not warmer. And when you reverse that process somewhere in the line, you can start to build up the showers and storms, but then they hit that warmer layer that happens to be that snuck in at some point in the atmosphere. And as soon as it hits that warmer layer, they're done. They immediately begin to fall apart. So we have a chance late Thursday night. Typically at night, you can try to get some of these thunderstorms that will try to make a run for you. We'll see if that can happen or not. We're only going to keep it about 20% for now. But that front will linger, by the way, on Friday. It'll still hang out, but it's the same storyline where you're going to have the front as a trigger, but the front's fading off the weather map as we're looking at it. So it's not exactly a strong front. And two, you're going to start to lose the ability for the warmer air aloft to save you there. It's going to be more of an issue of preventing the storms from taking place. But that is really our only decent chance of at least organized bands of rain or anything that could be on the gusty side. Although we're now in the summer season here coming up, guys, to where I'm not going to show you as many severe weather maps. Certainly not the CSU maps are out. That's just something that stands out, because you're in the summer season to where just about any thunderstorm this time of the year, all the way past state fair time, can produce warnings, isolated cases of severe weather. That's just the way it is in the Ohio Valley and southeast corner of the country in general. So we don't talk about the severe weather outlooks as much unless you got a strong front and a boundary area to create a more organized threat. Otherwise, these one-offs that will happen, just kind of take that for what it is as far as it being a daily threat. Anytime you have that chance for a storm, to get a warning is always going to be on the table at least. All right, so just be mindful of that. Okay, there's my soapbox. But you see the storm front itself is right there on us on Friday. The good news is it'll shave off a few degrees from us, because we may end up with a lot of cloud cover from whatever happens Thursday night. Even if it doesn't give us rain, it probably will give us a decent amount of mid to high level clouds, and therefore hopefully this again keep some of the temperatures down. Now, while this is happening, we will be watching a couple of things. First off, there will be a tropical wave that is now, as you saw, moving across Florida. We'll look at that in a second. I don't think it's going to be a huge factor in our weather. But there is another wave that is developing near the Yucatan Peninsula and may move into the Bay of Campeche. And if that's the case, it will likely stay more than likely in the Bay of Campeche area. There's a couple fronts in the longer term. I mentioned the one Thursday into Friday. As you're about to see, there's another one that will try to drop down about Tuesday of next week. I don't know if it's going to push all the way through. GFS likes the idea of it pushing all the way through and pushes us back into the 70s again. The Euro is like, no, I don't think you're going to get much further than, say, Cincinnati, and then they're going to go back north. And therefore, we get teased with it. Could maybe give us a thunderstorm being closer to us, but because it just ricochets off our back and leaves town, the heat just rolls right back in, which is more likely to happen because that is typically a summer scenario, although fronts have made it further south this season than normal. So both scenarios, I think, are still fair game on this, but I think the trend you will notice is more toward the Euro idea of it ricocheting away. So temperatures in the 90s, you bet. Last year, we made it into the lower 90s to start things off on the heat waves. We actually got into the mid 90s at 96 the last week of July last year, and the peak was 99. That was toward the end of August. After the state fair, we hit 99 degrees. That was the hottest day of the entire year. So you can, and that's still with a fairly green environment. Initially, we did get dry after that. That led us into September and October, and then drought status formed. But you can get into the mid 90s with a green environment. Normally, we would say no, that would not happen around here because it usually is a good rule of thumb. But I am learning that things are different. The heat down effect is different. I have seen that thermometer, even with high humidity, still able to push into the mid 90s. So it's a little different than what I was accustomed to growing up here and studying about this area. There has been a change in the past. I would 3 to 5 years, especially, that mid 90s have been achievable even with a very green ground. But a lot of us old school folks always mention that it's tough to get to the mid 90s, the green ground. I've seen that idea been proven wrong a few times recently. I think the bigger issue is not so much, yes, the heat index gets a lot of attention, but I think it's more of an issue, the overnight lows. That's where the energy comes into play. As far as your bills go, it's tough to cool down. When you can't get below 75 in the city limits, especially at night, and you're back up in the mid 90s in the daytime, boy, it's tough. People get moody. They get angry. They get moody. Road rage seems to go up on the interstate. So, yeah, that's the bad thing. The overnight lows, when you can reset with a cool morning, it just makes for a better day. Not, the heat in the afternoon, everyone can handle, I think, is fine. But the overnight lows is a problem. Anyway, I don't think we're going to get into that much of an issue of mid 70s at night until we get past this front here Friday and really past the weekend. Once it moves away, we do start to see more of a return flow, which would mean isolated showers and thunderstorms will be possible, but that also means a higher humidity, and therefore, again, low temperatures at night will start to go up. You will end up with temperatures in the 90s, the heat index again near 100, maybe 101. That looks to be about the limit that I can see. And notice, even on the Euro, it takes whatever tries to form here in the western Gulf of Mexico and Bay of Campeche and tries to move in more into southern Texas. Not so much directly toward us yet. Anytime you get a system in Texas, either they tend to fall apart in Texas, they move into the coastline, and they just run out of no western wind here to push them. So they just go there to basically die into Texas. And in some cases, if they can move further inland enough, they can catch a westerly wind, and then some of that moisture can then be thrown right into the Ohio Valley. That has happened several times. I'm not ruling that out, but that'd be later next week if that were to even happen. All right. So otherwise, the heat's the bigger story as we evolve. Here's that secondary front again later next week. You see it just doesn't quite push all the way through here. So therefore, it just kind of rolls off our back, and the heat remains the big story. If the GFS is right, then yeah, we got another blast of refreshing air coming our way, but I'm highly suspect of it, especially since the GFS just 24 hours ago was forecasting highs of 105 to 110 at the same period. So it's been fluctuating 40 or 50 degrees. That's pretty significant. So yeah, we'll just take that for what it's worth there. I mentioned the tropics. Again, there's that all that noise going on that's into Florida. Hurricane Center is watching it. They've got a 20% chance of any development as it crosses into the Gulf of Mexico here over the next couple of days. They do not have anything yet for what would be the Western Caribbean because we don't have the energy there yet. But if it does start to show up after the weekend, I got a feeling they're going to be doing an outlook for that as well. But nothing earth-shattering that I see showing up there. So let me show you the 10-day. I'm going to get right into your question or questions. Todd, what you got there, Todd? How you doing, Todd? Maybe the GFS needs to be rebooted, but we've said that many times. GFS does have some good days. It doesn't always, for lack of a better word, it doesn't always suck, right? It does have a good time period to win out against the euro. And the euro is not perfect. It scores high, don't get me wrong, but it's not perfect. And I don't see any reason or a way that a weather model will ever be perfect, because the chaos theory, I just don't see it happening. We're going to get close. We already are getting very close to where we were just since I've been at Wave. The ability to forecast, it's good and bad. We can see things further out. We can see bigger events further out. But when it gets to short-term events, there's a lot of noise, because before we only had 1 or 2 short-range models. Now we have at least 7 that we have to look at, and sometimes too much information works against us. So there's still some wiggle room on our profession as meteorologists to analyze all that data and get used to the models and their personalities is the best way I can word it. Let's see, Michael, Shelby County Fair. Is that this weekend, Shelby County? Bullitt County has their fair, right? I thought Bullitt County had their fair in June usually. It's one of the earlier ones that I can recall. It's almost church picnic time, it seems like. So let's see. What is your guess for reaching 100 this summer? What do you mean, actual temperature or heat index? I think actual temperature is going to be tough. You can get, as we saw last year, we got to 99, and that was actually during a wet pattern. So you can get up there, but it's very tough. You got the right conditions, but it's reachable. The heat index of 100, I think, is going to be reached several times this year. And we're going to have a lot of heat advisories that I'm sure will come out. Hopefully no excessive heat warnings, but a lot of heat advisories. And we're going to try to treat that as carefully as we can for you all, because we're not going to have alert days every day for a heat advisory. It's summer. But for maybe the first one that hits or one that's prolonged, we may highlight that type of an event. That is possible, but we're not to that point yet for next week. So that's good. Dew points go up. They do go up next week. And I think, again, it's going to be that second section of the heat wave. You get into like Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, in that range. I think it's when you'll start to really feel the humidity a little more. I think the first round of heat won't be too bad. Won't be too bad at all, which is good. Any questions I can answer, but I got to run here. Shelby County Fair is this week. All right, thank you. Adam for actual. Hope that helped answer your question. I think it's going to be that's going to be a little more of a battle, but we'll see. Last year was July. Don't hold me to it. July 26th, I think, was when we hit 96 degrees. It was our first mid-90 degree day. Otherwise, it was 93s before that we had as early as about this time in June. If we go by that idea, it would be later in July. But this year is not going to be like last year. It's already a different ocean pattern, and everything's different. So can't compare, unfortunately. All right, Bullitt County Fair is going on now. Good. I like that. It'll be state fair time for guys. I mean, and then I got to get the pumpkins ready. Then I'm going to get ready to decorate, get my inflatables ready for Halloween. Got to start my Christmas shopping. There's always a cycle. Would you say, Todd? If it's going to be hot, I'd rather be Vegas hot, because for one thing, I'd be in Vegas. I'm not a huge a gambler person, but I love Vegas. I do love Vegas, and I just love people watching more than anything. I'm an introvert, but the people watching is what is so distracting. And for so much happening and the way the roads are laid out, it's very dangerous to people watch, because you could easily fall down an escalator or end up on the wrong street or run into people constantly. So I usually try to stay stationary and just sit around, just take it all in. There's a lot going on. It's just it's visually just noise everywhere. But I like that. I like Times Square in New York. I like that. I think it's fun. Okay, I'm going to leave it there, guys. Enjoy today. Try not to stay inside too long if you're at work. I'm sorry. I hope you get out a little early and enjoy the weather today. It's going to be nice today. It will be nice tomorrow. But again, you will notice the change starting tomorrow and the heat building back up. And then we'll see what happens with these Thursday night, Friday downpours, because we're going to need the rain. This is the time of the year where all the rain we had that spring, all the severe weather that brought us rain in the spring, it is not going to matter if we start getting long gaps without rain. You're going to quickly switch the storyline to a drought. So For your farmers out there, I know you're watching it carefully. So we need the frequency of rain to stay with us. It doesn't have to be high amounts, just to keep the frequency going. So Thursday night and Friday's rain chance, I do think is an important one. We need to make sure that we get something out of that, and hopefully without anything too crazy on the storm side, but we need some rain for sure out of it. All right, I'll stay quiet for now. Good to see you guys, and I will see you all coming up on the flip side on midday. I always hit the wrong button. Oh, there it is.